Welcome to Money, Manifestation, and Business, the podcast that shows you how to use your energy, intention, and consciousness to reprogram your money mindset, unleash a new level of possibility, and create a life and business that lights you up. I'm your host, Jamie Berman, and I invite you to join me each week for a dose of inspiration, coaching, and teachings to help you rewrite your money story, create abundance on your terms, and grow your business in a way that's fully aligned for you. This is going to be so much fun. Let's dive in. Right, y'all, here by popular request, I have a special guest today. I'm going to do the introduction to this special guest. I have here today Josh Alexander himself. He is an artist, a composer, and a multi-platinum hit songwriter. He's released a number of contemporary classical albums over the past few years and has written songs for everyone from Demi Lovato to Selena Gomez to Weezer to Jessie J, JoJo, and many, 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 many more. And he just so happens to be my husband, my favorite manifestation of my entire lifetime as of yet. So welcome, Joshy.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
And we also have little Millie here. If we're watching on YouTube, you can see there's absolutely no way she was not going to get in on this and sit with the both of us.
It wouldn't be an interview without Millie. I don't think it would be the same.
It totally wouldn't. So welcome, Josh, and thank you for finally making time to come on the podcast.
Not a question of time. You know, our schedules had to align. We have a big commute,
Yeah, exactly. He had to walk upstairs. But he has been very busy creating and manifesting something absolutely amazing that we'll be talking about. So that's why it took a little bit of time to get him here, but now that he's here, it's going to be awesome. I cannot wait to ask all the questions. I know some of you even requested me asking him questions, so we will get to all of it. So first, before we dive into all the fun, how you've manifested this amazing career in music, I thought it would be fun to talk about how we manifested each other. And in fact, a lot of my clients asked, how did that happen?
Let's do it.
So I guess I'll share my side first. I did not consciously manifest Josh. And when I say that, I mean, we're always manifesting, right? Like all of us, whether we know it or not, we are manifesting because it really just means creating. It's what we are creating for ourselves, the lives that we're creating, the people that we attract, what we call into our lives. We're always manifesting, whether we're aware of it or not. At the time, I was not consciously trying to manifest Josh. I was not trying to manifest a husband. I was just trying to have a good time. I had moved out to LA like 1 year prior, and I had broken up with my ex-boyfriend, and I was honestly just like, I want to have some fun. Like all of my friends were getting on the dating apps. It was kind of a new thing at that time. And I was like, I'm just going to get out and meet some hot guys, and hopefully someone can teach me to surf.
That was me.
And I saw that Josh lived in Venice Beach. So I was like, maybe he knows how to surf. And yeah, we connected online. And the rest is kind of history because I wasn't consciously trying to manifest a husband, but Joshy surprised me. And even though I had always said my whole life, I don't really care to get married. I don't really need a husband. I don't really want kids. Well, when I met you, that just changed. So
sweet.
That's my story.
That's a really interesting, I think part of all this, where I feel like certainly in my life, I've had those instances where, as you said, you're not consciously trying to call something in, but on some level, your higher self, if you will, or you want to call it your soul, whatever word you want to use, is desiring this, right? And I kind of think it's really interesting when you think about all the things in one's life that maybe you weren't aware of at the surface level, but on a deeper level, you created.
True.
And I think it's so, for me, like some of the best things in life are those things that maybe you didn't even know you wanted. And they're like these amazing little surprises that end up being some of the best things in your entire life.
True.
So that's an amazing thing. So contrary to your sort of, position, I think that was also probably a function of, you were 24, you just came out,
100%,
right? So
totally.
you weren't like, but I think for me, I was in a different place. I was around 28, almost 29. And I really wanted a deep relationship. I wanted something that I hadn't really had before. I had tastes of it, but like a holistic, really, fully integrated, loving relationship. And I kind of also wanted to, date around a little bit and have some fun too. But I met Jamie on my third date.
Yeah.
So we met, I think we both got on the apps, as they say these days.
Yes.
And I was on there for 3 weeks and I met Jamie, which is just crazy. But I really was intentional. I remember talking to anyone that I was close with saying, man, whatever I'm doing is not working. I really want to try something different. This was back when dating apps, there was a little bit of a stigma around it.
They were a little creepy still. Like it was back in the days where it's like, okay, text me. Like you would send all your friends that you're like going out or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? It was it was pre-Tinder. I mean, we were on OkCupid. So yeah, it was like when it was starting to get popular, but it was still a little bit weird. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was even a little like, had some trepidations about, I don't know, but I was so motivated to find someone who I really felt like that soulfully connected to. And I remember like even talking to my mom and being like, God, like, I just know she's out there and I feel like I know what I want. And I could kind of feel it. It wasn't like I saw an image or anything, but like I could feel the energy. And when I met you, it was like, oh my God, like you embodied that like to a T and even better, because you can never really imagine all the complexities and the depth and the idiosyncrasies that a real person is. You just have this idea, but you definitely were like, oh, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So that was interesting where like you weren't consciously, trying to create it, but for me, I very much was, but you were beyond what I imagined. And it's weird. I mean, I remember like the moment I decided like, I really want a different kind of relationship. And I was working super hard in the world of music and songwriting, and I barely got out. I was in the studio night and day, and I just wasn't meeting people beyond my little sphere. And so when I really made the conscious decision to like, I want that, like, it was crazy how fast that happened. And I met you on my third day. So I mean, it's powerful.
Yeah. I feel like that's what happens for you. Like when you energetically get on board with something, sometimes it takes you a while. But when you like do, it happens really fast.
Yeah, I feel like that is my experience. Like once I'm really, like you said, once I'm really there, things kind of move. And so that was amazing.
That was like Maui last year. Like
I
had been calling that in for so long, which it's amazing because I manifested him even wanting to move there. He never wanted to move there, and I manifested it. You can manifest like that. Okay, anyways.
But let's make a subtle distinction there. You can't, I don't believe you can create anything that someone else on some level doesn't also want.
No, that's true.
So you couldn't make someone, do something they don't want to do.
True.
They have to be there, and they have to on some level want that too.
Yeah.
But and I think, when you go into things like, if you have a friend or someone that's suffering or really struggling, they have to want to get better.
That's true.
But I think if you can, send them all the good things, I think on some level that really does help because they also want it.
Yeah.
They want to, move out of whatever issue they're having. So anyway.
Totally. I mean, just going back to that, like what I was saying is, I had been manifesting it for years and Josh was always a little wobbly with it, kind of there, kind of wanted it. We talked about it a ton. And I just remember after a couple years of us looking and lots of things. We had almost put in other offers down and lots happened with it. But I remember the moment you like energetically were like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like I could feel it from you. And literally it was a week later that our condo we got our condo.
Yeah, it was wild, actually.
Right? Like
Yeah.
exactly what we were envisioning, like came on board. It all
Yeah.
worked out. And I just remember being like, finally you got on board, and then it happens immediately. So anyways, that's kind of how some of it works for you.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that. And then other things, take a lot longer.
That's true.
And,
That's true. Which we should talk about. Because
Yeah.
I also, that is something that I really admire about you is your patience and your persistence when things don't happen overnight. And when things are, I don't want to say hard. It's not hard, but it's like, it's not happening fast.
Sure.
And you stick with it.
Yeah.
And so I definitely want to dive into that. But I want to actually start with kind of you become like your music career and how that started.
Yeah.
How you knew you wanted to be a songwriter, what that, just take us back.
Yeah. Well, as far as I can remember, I've loved music. And starting when I was about 5 or 6, my parents had this little old upright with, it was a theater piano. It had cigarette burns on the keys, and that's what they could afford at the time. And I was pounding on that thing maybe from the time I was 4. And they could quickly see, okay, he has an instinct for this. And so they started getting me lessons, and there were teachers that wouldn't take someone that young. We were able to find someone, and that was just incredible. And I think from the moment I started taking that, it's one of those things, and I'm sure like everyone has something like this, I feel, to different degrees. Like it was just something that felt like home for me. And it was this outlet that just felt like an extension of my emotions and my feelings. And I could articulate things through that piano, through music that I really couldn't and still can't, even to this day, on some level, through any other medium. Music feels like another appendage for me, or like another voice. And yeah, like you can speak things, and I feel like I've gotten better and better as I've gotten older with articulating and verbally.
Yeah,
and all
you're kind of amazing at that too.
Well, thank you. But I will say there's a depth, there's a nuance, there's something intangible that for me it's just my thing, and I'm so grateful. Like I found this thing from a young age. So I started playing. I got into pop music. I got into like rock music. I was super into like hip hop and R&B. And I was also really into classical music. And I started playing classical from the time I was 6 years old. And all these things were like all in my sphere. And, played in bands with one of my best friend, Tyler. And, we did a ton of music together. And from the time I got to sort of around like 14, 15, 16, it became clear that like the really like fire was like writing songs.
Yeah.
And wanting to be like an artist in more of the pop world. And so when it came time to graduate from high school, I was just like, I am going to LA, much to my parents' sort of nervousness.
It wasn't even when it came time to graduate. Wasn't it like it was 2 years before you graduated? You're like, I'm not going back to school.
Yeah, I couldn't leave high school soon enough. I was done. I knew it. That's something about me. I don't know where, it's just in my DNA. Like when I know I feel something, I am like you said, I'm kind of like, that's it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember around junior year, I was done with high school. I still graduated, mind you. Let's not.
You went to like a special school to graduate, right?
Yeah, it was like a sort of like a home study school. You'd go once a week. And, there now looking back as an adult, there were pros and cons to that. But there was no turning me down from the way I felt at the time. And I was so passionate. And I think my parents could feel that, God bless them, because they saw that passion. I was doing trips to LA. I was acting in various things. I was, they could feel it and they could see what I was doing. So when it came time to finally do it, I was like, okay, came down to LA, and I was just hell bent on making a career in pop music. And I thought I kind of wanted to be like an artist, like a pop artist. But ultimately what that really led to was being a pop songwriter. Mm-hmm. And, I enrolled in USC because my parents wanted me to, and I didn't really want to do it. And they wanted me to have some place to go.
Yeah.
So I wasn't just alone in my apartment at 18 writing songs by myself, not knowing anybody. And
because that is so Josh. You would totally do that too. Like you would not leave probably besides to go eat.
100%. So they were smart. They encouraged me to do it. I did not want to do it, but I applied to USC. I ended up getting into USC, and within like 2 weeks, I had made a connection through my dad with Billy Steinberg, who's been my mentor really for 20 years and just a legendary songwriter. He's written some of the most iconic songs like
Tell
A
him,
Virgin,
yes.
True Colors, Eternal Flame, just incredible, really incredible music.
We love Billy. He's
we
the
love
best.
Billy so much. He's been really just a gem to me and our whole family. And, started writing with Billy pretty soon. Within 2 weeks of getting into USC, I quit USC.
He went to college for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yep. I was like, this is why I'm here. I'm not in LA to go to college. I'm here to write songs.
When you know, you know. Yeah.
When you know, you know. And yeah, and I started writing with Billy pretty soon after that. And then, within a couple years, we had our first cuts together with a band called the Veronicas on Warner Brothers.
Yep.
Great artists. And we just kind of took it from there. And we started writing more hits together and had some number ones all around the world. It's been an absolute blessing. And it's been incredible. And I think related to what you're talking about with, how do you create conscious creation, right? And I think for me, I didn't know anything about manifestation. I didn't even know really what manifestation was when I was 20 years old. I don't even know if I had heard the word manifestation.
Wow.
What I had heard about was meditation.
Okay.
That's very close to manifestation.
Yeah, right.
I'd heard about meditation, and my mom had turned me on to a book from an amazing Tibetan Buddhist nun called Pema Chodron, who I'm sure many of your audience knows.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind. That was like the reason I bring that up is because that was like one of my first tastes of, if you want to call it spirituality or something beyond just the visible.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to put it into words, but there was something that it lit a spark in me.
Yeah.
That was like, ooh, and I started I was barely meditating, but just reading that book.
How old were you when you found
I was probably
that?
20.
Oh, wow.
And it was a book called When Things Fall Apart.
Good book.
An amazing book.
Yeah.
Highly recommend, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember reading that and being like, whoa. It was just like a glimpse of something more.
Yeah.
And I really didn't adopt a formal meditation or any sort of spiritual practice for another decade.
Yeah.
But it planted the seed.
Yeah.
And then I kind of forgot about it. And then I started on my career, and it would be 10 years really after I met you until I really started getting back into it. But the really interesting thing about that was, what did I do every day? I kept envisioning, just because it felt like the right thing to do, myself writing hit records, moving people.
This was before you knew about manifestation or visualization
100%.
or anything. So
I didn't know anything about it.
So what do you mean by you visualized?
So I would talk about it every day.
Yeah.
To anyone who would listen, and we certainly talk to my parents' ear off about it, talk to friends about it, just be like, God, man, I really feel like I can write a hit song. And then of course, when I started working with Billy, it started to feel that much more real. And I had this incredible example of someone that had written such huge records, and it touched millions of people. And I started to feel like, God, the melodies I'm writing, the chords I'm writing, these sound like what I'm hearing on the radio. This was before, of course, Spotify.
Yeah.
It's going to age me for a second, but and Apple and all that stuff. But I just was listening to everything. I was just in it. I eat, breathe, and sleep. And I just kept feeling like, God, what I'm writing sounds like what I'm hearing. I feel like I'm writing at the level of things that I'm hearing. On my best day, I felt like I could compete with the top people. And I just kept feeling that. And I kept believing that. And I kept talking to people about it. I'm like, I feel like I could do this. I feel like I could see my song. And I kept saying, I remember this was I just want to be a part of this industry.
Yeah.
I just want to be a part of this industry. I would say that, and I kept kind of speaking it into existence. Yeah. And I would even imagine it. I mean, you could call it daydream. I think that's what maybe it starts with a lot of people. I just would kind of zone out and picture what it would be like to hear my song on the radio.
Yeah.
There was a countdown here in LA on Kiss FM, and it was this, I think it was called 9 at 9.
Okay.
And I would listen to that every day, and I would listen to the top 9 songs. And I would see, God, man, I could hear one of my songs on this top 9 at 9. I would see it. And fast forward about 4 years, I got my first song on that Kiss FM 9 at 9. And it was a surreal experience, because I'd been seeing that so long in my head, not knowing what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it just felt right. It felt like what I should be doing.
Yeah. What was that experience like the first time you heard your song on the radio? Hey there, I don't want to interrupt your episode, but I promise it is for good reason. I wanted to hop in here and let you know about a special event that I have coming up called Manifest. It's a 5-day money manifestation challenge that is completely free that I'm offering to my entire community. It's on October 21st through 25th, and it's going to be packed with incredible teachings, great content, and things that are going to help you really get started on your manifestation journey. So come join us for these potent 5 days of teaching and let's manifest together. Whether you want to manifest your first 5K week, or you want to manifest a 100K launch, or your first 7-figure year. It really doesn't matter because these teachings will apply to you. It's all about energetically aligning yourself with that which you desire. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. So be sure to go to manifest.jamieberman.com to sign up. We will also have the link in the show notes. I cannot wait to see you there.
I started screaming in my house. I had a little boom box and I put it on, and our song, it was actually a song Billy and I had written with a songwriter named Ruth Ann Cunningham, and we had written it for an amazing artist called JoJo, and the song was called Too Little Too Late. And
which many of you probably know.
we had a big hit with a group called Tattoo a couple years before, written with the Veronicas, Billy and I. But that was internationally. So this was the first time I actually got to hear my song coming out in America.
Wow.
And it had just come out, and we heard that Kiss FM, one of the biggest radio stations in LA, which is where I was living, was starting to play it. So I was like, man, I better tune into this Top 99. I was still listening to it, but maybe not every night at that point. So I turned it in, and the song had just come out. And I remember there was now it was something like number 6 or number 7. We have the new song from JoJo, Too Little Too Late. And I literally, it was like this surge of electricity went through my body.
I can picture this.
Screamed. I just started yelling.
Yeah.
I was like, woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
I wish I was there. We would have been screaming together because that's what we do when we celebrate.
It was it was such
so amazing.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah.
It was just such a joyful, you know how hard, and it's hard.
Yeah.
Like anything.
That's what I think we should talk about too, because it sounds like, I just didn't go to USC and got signed with Billy, and then 4 years later had a song. But 4 years.
Oh yeah.
You think about it. 4 years is a long time to be writing songs, grinding, writing songs, and not literally making a dime for 4 years.
Yeah. And we should say, I was very, very fortunate. This is a privileged position to be in because, I had parents that were basically like, okay, you're not going to college.
Yeah.
We're going to help you as if you were going to college. So your college is the LA songwriting scene. And we're going to support you for those 4 years. And after that, you are getting a job.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to, make it work. And
Josh getting a job. I just can't even
a traditional job.
Yeah, I know. But still, I can't picture you waking up at and going into an office at 9 a.m.
I would have done it because I believe so much in it. But as fate would have it, right around that 4-year mark is when I first started to make, my first dime from music. Yeah. And it was right around that time. And I was very, very lucky to have had parents that gave me that 4 years, which was basically my education, my college, and Billy's mentorship and, teaching me the ropes. And then, right around that 4-year mark, we had our first hit that started to go.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's so true. I mean, there's different kinds of hard, right? It wasn't physically hard.
Yeah.
But mentally.
Yeah.
Every day showing up, getting to that piano every single day, writing for hours, pretty much 7 days a week. Yeah. Having nothing really to show for it, but the promise.
Yeah.
And just believing in, and the truth is, I just loved it. And I think that's one of the biggest things is it's I've always had this motto, go where the love is.
Yeah.
If you go where the love is, amazing things will happen because there's so much SHIT that in any
Good
job.
job, Joshy.
I don't, your audience, I don't know, I don't want to cut. But I do tend to cuss. So I'm going to really watch myself.
Yeah, I know. He totally does. I was like, we're going to be bleeping a lot on this episode.
I've been good so far.
It's fine. You're good.
But yeah, man, there's so much stuff that I think in any career that you have to go through. There's so much rejection. There's so many ups and downs that if you don't love it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it means you got to love every part of it. There's definitely parts that, are more fun and preferable than others. But if you don't at your core love something, I just think it's really an uphill battle.
Totally.
And so I think for me, that was really the blessing, is that I loved it so much that I was willing to do whatever it takes, as long as it takes to do it. And so that is the reason I got up every day to, get back in there and do it. And so
did you ever doubt that it would happen?
I'm sure I had thoughts like that. I think I really try, again, not consciously knowing this, knowing, but like I just tried to be as positive as I could. And I really just believed in my ability to write melodies and songs that could move people and that could connect with people. It would get it, affirmed when I would listen to songs that ended up doing really well and really connected. I'd go, God, like, I love that song. Like, I could write something like that in my own way.
Right.
That was unique to me.
Yeah.
But I just kept getting these like glimpses that like, I could do this.
Yeah.
Like I really have what it takes, I think, to do this at a high level. And so that was enough. And then, getting the confirmation from people like Billy and other people in the industry, it gives you a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
Like you got, as a coach, right? You start to get kind of cosigns by people that you believe
look
in.
Up to. Yeah,
that
totally.
look up to.
Yeah.
And that gives you, it really does. It's
Yeah.
like a little jolt of things to keep on the path and
Yeah.
stay on the path. And that's so important.
Yeah.
Like our mentors are so important.
So true.
No one can do it alone.
Oh, no
one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved what I've heard you say before about like self-made, and there's really no such thing, right? It's not like you grew up with like mega wealthy parents that just, like had connections and things. So many could call you self-made, but you don't resonate with that word.
No, I just don't. I mean, listen, to each their own, and I get where that word comes from.
And it can be an inspiring word.
Absolutely.
So I'm not, it's not like,
Absolutely.
but I just love your perspective on this.
Well, I think for me, I've always felt, without parents that signed me up for music lessons, I don't know where I'd be. Without my piano teachers, I don't know where I'd be. Without, going and originally meeting Billy and starting my journey, I would have a very different road. Without meeting you, I'd have a very different road.
Yeah.
Without all the things, all the little dots. And it's, there's a great movie about that called Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow a number of years ago. And it's like one thing that changes affects the entire trajectory of your life.
Right.
And you can get kind of like, it's kind of throws you for a loop if you look
totally.
at that.
Think about it too hard. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say that generally speaking, like, I think like we're all creating our reality, if you will, but I think it's so important for me to be really appreciative of all the people that helped you be there and for whom the journey would look quite different, and in a lot of cases a lot more difficult if it wasn't for that.
It really is a co-creative process.
100%.
Right? Creation, it's never solo. Never.
I don't think
ever.
it is.
And it's like we all get to support each other.
That's
like you got to support your piano teacher.
Yeah.
And also with Billy, you guys got to co-create with each other. And
absolutely.
me and you in our relationship, we fuel each other in different ways and inspire
Absolutely.
each other in other different
Oh
ways.
my
So
God.
it's a special thing, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
What's that expression? No man is an island.
Yeah.
Say no woman is an island, no person is an island.
Yes,
100%.
absolutely. I love that. So I definitely want to talk about how you got to where you are now as an artist. But one of the things that I noticed, many of the years through which we were married, I mean, we met when I was 24, you were 28. So for many years, you were a songwriter and you were actively like really in it. Songwriting. In fact, we were together when you had your first #1 hit with Demi Lovato.
Yep.
Give Your Heart a Break.
Yes.
And one of the things that I really saw was how freaking, and you're still really good at this, how freaking good you are at like something not going as expected or as you hoped. And you just, I'm not saying you don't get disappointed, but you do not let it like bring you down.
Yeah.
In the way that I sometimes do.
Well,
Like,
hey.
I mean, you bounce back so quickly. And this will be something that you put your heart and soul and time and energy and hours and money and so much into.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many times where things kind of fall apart or you know, for instance, you had written all these amazing songs. It was after Too Little Too Late, or no, sorry, it was after Give Your Heart a Break. And there were all these promises. I mean, there was a song that was going to go to a huge pop artist. And the label was going around playing that song for all other songwriters in LA. They were telling us like, yeah, this is going to be the first single. This is the feel and the song of the entire album. We want to play this for everyone and tell them this is kind of what we want the album to be. So it was so promising. We were so excited. And then like weeks later, they call you up and say, and I remember because I hear you on this call and they're like, she decided she doesn't want to do it anymore. She just decided, right? And we were like, what? Like, wait a minute, what? From like one extreme to the other. How do you do that?
Well, look, I would first say just by like my genetic disposition, I tend to be an optimist by nature. And I think that's sort of just hardwired into me for whatever reason.
Hashtag jolliest man alive.
Oh my God. Listen, I have my moments, believe me. But I think generally speaking, I tend to be an optimistic person. And I try to look at things from glass half full. And I think that, you know, I don't know. It's just, I had parents that were like that. I mean, I think there's something in me, I guess, that I just kind of feel like, what's your choice? You know, it happened. It wasn't what you wanted, but certainly now, like I'll say, how is this for me?
Right.
Like everything is for you. And I think for me, I'm like, it's for you if you think it's for you. If you think everything is against you, you're going to see a lot of evidence how everything is against you. But if you generally have the mentality of everything is for me, what's here? What's here? How can I learn from this? Where's the growing edge here? Where can I evolve from this thing? Even if it's to teach you like more patience, or it's to teach you how to be positive within a seeming negative situation. I think my big thing is like, if everything is for me, what's the takeaway here? And it's hard to do. And the one you're referring to with that story was really hard because I think we believed in it so much, and it was such I think a beautiful record. And but I think, you know, you also got to grieve it. You don't want to like spiritually bypass it or repress it. I think you got to like process it. But I think for me, for whatever reason, I do have a fairly quick ability to move on. And I think, again, man, it just comes back to, I love this stuff so damn much. So whether it's for me now as an artist, as a contemporary classical artist, or, you know, previously writing songs, I love it so much. And I think I believe in my core ability to create music that's going to touch people and move people. I feel like it's one of the reasons like I'm here on this planet. So I'm like, why would I let myself be beaten down and discouraged by one thing not going my way? There's so many pieces to be written. There's so many opportunities. There's so many songs. It's like, why would I focus on one that didn't go? Like I'm moving on. I'm ready for the next. Let's bring it. Let's do it. And so I just feel like there's not enough time in a life to dwell too much on those things. Because when I do that, I just feel like crap the next day. And then that leads to the next day. So I don't know. I think everyone's different. And I think everyone has to sort of process those disappointments. And I certainly don't think you should just be like, put on a happy face. Like I would never advocate that. But I think I try to relatively quickly like see how it's for me. Realize that like it's a new day. I'm so excited I get to create something new tomorrow. And who knows what it'll be, and this is for me on some level, and that will reveal itself. Even if I can't see in the moment how it's for me, I kind of say like, I know it will appear. I know that there's going to be some lesson here that's going to elevate me, maybe not in the way I thought, but to a different understanding or a higher level of being, I guess. So that's just how I try to approach stuff like that. I'm not perfect. I have my moments, but I I just feel like it's too fun. It's like it's too fun. Like the music is so fun, you know, and there's so much excitement for me every day, like sitting down at the piano, you know, picking up an instrument. Like I feel like there's not enough years in a life to write the amount of music that I want to write.
Wow.
Like I could do this forever. And so I think again, like when it was songwriting, and now I've really stepped into being an artist and, you know, making contemporary classical music, and I feel like I'm 20 again.
Yeah.
Like there's so much like excitement around it, and I just can't wait to continue expressing this stuff and connecting with people. And like it really is, it's a form of connection for me. It's like I'm making this music so that it will connect with other people, so that it can touch people and move them and remind them of sort of the essence within themselves. Like that's so motivating for me. So I'm just like, I'm not really here for anything that's gonna take me off that path.
Yeah. So it's like you're just so tapped into the bigger vision or the mission as a whole that it's like you don't see, even though in the moment they feel like huge things and life-changing things, it seems like you can still see it in the context of the bigger picture, which helps a lot.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I'm focused on the end goal.
Yeah.
I'm focused on the journey. I'm not focused on the little pit stops along the way.
And I think you have so much belief in your ability to do this and you're knowing that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that for you maybe becomes a little more natural. Like we've talked about this because I used to always say, how do you believe in yourself so much? And he had like parents that cultivated that. There's a lot there.
Absolutely.
But I've learned from you a lot around that because it's also a choice. It's something that we can also nurture that belief. And I think nurture that vision, nurture the mission. And when I say nurture, I mean really like focus in on it and think about that often, so that whether it's a song that gets pulled that was supposed to be a #1 song or a launch that flops if you're in a business like mine or whatever else, even like a tough year, right? That you can get through it because you're focused on your why and your mission and that bigger vision. So I love that so much. And
exactly.
I think we're going to have to do 2-part episodes. So we're going to have to come back next week and talk about, because I have so much more that I want to talk about with you. So next week, part 2, we'll do, I want to get into this courageous pivot that you made. I mean, you were and are a hit songwriter with a thriving career, could probably get in the room with just about most pop stars. Pretty much. I mean, there's not too many that you haven't been in the room with. And you decided that wasn't what you wanted to do full time anymore. And you decided to make this courageous pivot into modern classical composing, into being an artist yourself and not just writing songs for other artists. So we're going to talk about that journey. And also, when you finally did learn how to consciously manifest, what changed? I want to hear more about that. And we'll ask any of the questions that came in from my followers.
Cool.
So, part 2 coming next week. We'll see you soon. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope this episode is something that you'll be able to add to your manifestation toolbox to come back to when you need a little extra motivation. If you like what you've heard today and want to take it deeper, you've got to come check out my signature coaching program, the Money Manifestation Movement. It's the place where you'll not only learn manifestation, but you'll begin to live it alongside me and an amazing community of like-minded entrepreneurs doing this work together. Head on over to jamieberman.com to learn more.